Okay, so you sent over a bunch of information about cybersecurity, and it looks like you're really interested in session audits.
Yes.
And how password security is changing. We are going to deep dive into all of that today.
Okay.
But let's start with the basics.
Sure.
Can you explain what a session audit is?
Yeah. In simple terms.
So think of it this way. Every time you use a computer or log into an account,
Right.
you leave a trail of digital breadcrumbs.
Okay.
A session audit is like having a detective examine those breadcrumbs to make sure everything is as it should be.
Interesting analogy. So it's not just about catching someone doing something wrong,
Right?
but also about understanding how people are using systems and data.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Session audits help us spot unusual activity.
Right.
That might indicate a security breach, but they also give us valuable insights into user behavior.
Okay.
That information can be used to improve security awareness training
Gotcha.
and make systems more secure. So it's a proactive approach to security, not just a reactive one.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Huh.
Now, I see you've also included a lot of information about password security. You've probably heard the advice to change passwords every 30 days.
Oh, yeah.
But is that still the best approach?
Well, the idea behind password rotation was to limit the damage if someone stole your password.
Right.
But cybersecurity is constantly evolving, and we now have better ways to protect our accounts.
Okay, that's intriguing.
Yeah.
So what are some of these modern alternatives to password rotation?
One of the most popular and effective solutions is multi-factor authentication,
Okay.
or MFA.
Mm-hmm.
It's like adding a second lock to your door.
Right.
Even if someone gets your password, they can't get in without that extra layer of security,
Right.
like a fingerprint scan or code sent to your phone.
Well, MFA sounds great. Are there any situations where it might not be the ideal solution?
There can be some minor inconveniences,
Okay.
such as needing your phone nearby,
Right.
or dealing with delays if you lose access to your second factor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But for most accounts, the added security benefits far outweigh any minor inconvenience.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What are some of the other options besides MFA?
Password managers are another great tool.
Right.
They generate and store complex,
Right.
unique passwords for all your accounts, so you don't have to remember them.
Okay.
That means less password reuse,
Right.
which drastically reduces your risk.
I've heard of password managers, but never really understood how they work.
Right.
Do they store all my passwords in one place?
They do.
Isn't that risky?
They use encryption to protect them.
Okay.
It's actually much safer than writing them down
Right.
or storing them in a plain text file.
Gotcha.
Think of it like having a digital vault for your passwords.
Okay, that makes me feel better. Are there any other cool technologies on the horizon?
Absolutely.
This whole field seems to be moving so fast.
Yeah, there's something called behavioral biometrics,
Okay.
which analyzes things like your typing speed and mouse movement
Right.
to create a profile of your normal online activity.
Interesting.
If something deviates from that profile,
Yeah.
it could signal a potential threat.
So it's like having a digital guardian angel.
Yeah.
Who knows your online quirks better than you do? What happens if the system flags something unusual?
It can trigger additional authentication steps
Okay.
or even block access to the account.
So it just shuts you down?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
They're all about adding an extra layer of intelligence to security systems.
What about completely getting rid of passwords? Is
No.
that even possible?
It's closer than you think.
Wow.
Biometrics like fingerprint scanning and facial recognition are becoming increasingly common,
Right.
as are hardware tokens that act like digital keys.
Interesting.
This is leading us towards passwordless authentication,
Okay.
which could revolutionize online security.
Passwordless sounds so futuristic.
Yeah.
Are there any downsides to using these kinds of technologies?
Some people have concerns about privacy and data security.
Yeah.
And of course, there are technical challenges to overcome
Right.
to make sure these systems are reliable and secure, but the potential benefits are huge.
Sounds like the future of cybersecurity is going to be very different from what we're used to.
It is.
And it's an exciting time to be involved in this field.
It is.
There's so much innovation happening,
Yeah.
and we're constantly finding new ways to protect ourselves in the digital world. This has been really insightful.
Okay.
I'm already starting to rethink my approach to online security,
Great.
but we've got much more to cover.
Okay.
Stay tuned, folks, because we're just getting started.
Sounds good. You know, one of the most important things to remember about cybersecurity is that it's not just about technology.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I always thought it was all about firewalls and complex algorithms. So what else is there?
People are often the weakest link in the security chain.
Right.
Think about how many data breaches happen because someone clicked on a phishing link.
Oh, right, yeah.
Or used a weak password.
That's a good point. We can have the most sophisticated security systems in place.
Yep.
But if people aren't educated about cybersecurity best practices, it's all for nothing.
Exactly.
All right.
That's why security awareness training is so crucial. It's about empowering people with the knowledge and tools they need to make smart decisions online.
So instead of just telling people what not to do,
Right.
it's about helping them understand the WHY behind it.
Exactly.
So they can be more proactive about their own security.
Right. And it's not just about individuals.
Okay.
Organizations need to create a culture of security.
Right.
Where everyone understands the importance of protecting sensitive information.
That makes sense. It's like creating a collective shield against cyber attacks. But how do you make sure people actually pay attention to security training? Let's face it, it's not always the most exciting topic.
You're right. It can be a challenge.
Yeah.
But there are ways to make it more engaging and relevant.
Okay.
Remember those session audits we talked about earlier?
Yeah, the digital breadcrumbs.
Well, analyzing those audit logs can help us understand common user behaviors and tailor security awareness training to address specific areas of weakness.
So instead of just giving everyone a generic cybersecurity lecture,
Right.
you can actually pinpoint the specific risks and behaviors that are most prevalent in your organization.
You can make the training more targeted and effective,
Gotcha.
so people are more likely to pay attention and retain the information.
That's a clever use of data.
Yeah.
I noticed the material you sent also mentioned something called just-in-time permissions.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
It's a way of limiting access to sensitive data and systems
Okay.
to only when it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
So instead of giving someone permanent access to everything, they only get access for a specific task
Gotcha.
or period of time.
So it's like giving someone a temporary key to a specific room
Yeah.
instead of giving them the master key to the entire building.
Perfect analogy.
Okay.
It minimizes the window of opportunity for potential breaches
Right.
and reduces the risk of someone accidentally or intentionally misusing their access privileges.
It's a much more controlled and secure approach.
I like it.
Yeah.
And just in time, permissions are a key component of something called a zero trust security model.
Zero trust. That sounds intense.
It is, but it's becoming increasingly necessary in today's threat landscape.
Okay.
The basic idea behind zero trust is that no user or device should be trusted by default,
Okay.
even if they are already inside the network.
So it's like always verifying and authenticating every access request, no
Yes.
matter who's making it.
It's all about minimizing the attack surface
Right.
and limiting the potential damage from a security breach.
Gotcha.
It might sound a bit extreme. But with the increasing sophistication of cyber attacks, we need to be extra vigilant.
So just-in-time permissions and zero trust security are two sides of the same coin,
Yeah.
both aiming to tighten security and minimize risk.
Yes, they both reflect a more proactive and layered approach to cybersecurity, which is essential in today's world.
It's fascinating to see how all these different concepts and strategies are connected. I'm also curious about cloud security.
Yeah.
So much of our lives is now in the cloud,
Right.
but I rarely think about how it's protected.
Cloud security is a critical area that often gets overlooked. It's a whole other ballgame with its own unique set of challenges and risks.
Like what are some of the specific threats people should be aware of when using cloud services?
One major concern is data breaches.
Okay.
Cloud providers are responsible for the security of their infrastructure,
Right.
but you are ultimately responsible for the security of your data.
So what can people do to protect their data in the cloud?
Encryption is crucial. Encrypting your data before you upload it to the cloud adds an extra layer of protection, making it much harder for unauthorized users to access it.
That makes sense. Is there anything else people should be thinking about in terms of cloud security?
Access control is another key element.
Okay.
Make sure you understand who has access to your data in the cloud
Right.
and what permissions they have,
Gotcha.
and regularly review and update those permissions
Okay.
to minimize the risk of unauthorized access.
It's like being a vigilant bouncer for your own data in the cloud. Are there any specific tools or resources people can use to help with cloud security?
Absolutely. Many cloud providers offer security tools and services,
Okay.
like encryption tools, access control dashboards,
Right.
and security monitoring services.
Gotcha.
It's worth exploring what your provider offers and taking advantage of those features.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
So it sounds like cloud security requires a combination of individual responsibility and leveraging the tools and resources provided by the cloud providers.
Exactly. It's a shared responsibility model.
Gotcha. But even with all the right tools and strategies in place, sometimes things can go wrong.
Unfortunately, yes. That's why it's crucial to have a plan in place for what to do if your cloud data is compromised.
Okay.
This is where disaster recovery comes in.
Disaster recovery. So it's like having a backup plan for your backup plan.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about making sure you can recover your data quickly and efficiently. In the event of a disaster, whether it's a cyber attack, a natural disaster, or even just a simple human error.
So what does a good disaster recovery plan look like?
It involves things like regular backups,
Okay.
secure storage of those backups, and a clear process for restoring data if needed.
Gotcha.
It's also important to test your disaster recovery plan regularly to make sure it actually works when you need it.
That sounds crucial, especially for businesses that rely heavily on cloud services.
Absolutely. It's an investment in peace of mind. It's like having insurance for your data.
This has been incredibly helpful.
Good.
I'm starting to realize just how much goes into keeping our digital lives secure, both in the cloud and elsewhere.
It is a complex and ever-evolving field, but it's one that affects all of us.
And speaking of experts, you mentioned that Bert Blevins has interviewed several cybersecurity professionals.
Yes.
What kind of insights have they shared?
They've covered a wide range of topics, but one common theme is the importance of staying ahead of the curve.
Meaning?
It's not enough to just protect yourself from known threats.
Right.
You need to be constantly learning and adapting to new and emerging threats.
So it's like playing a game of chess with cyber criminals. You have to anticipate their next move.
That's a great analogy, and one of the best ways to stay ahead is to learn from others' experiences.
That makes sense. So what are some specific things people can do to stay informed about new threats and vulnerabilities?
Subscribing to security blogs and newsletters is a great start. Following cybersecurity experts on social media is another way to stay up to date.
And attending conferences or webinars.
Absolutely. The more you expose yourself to different perspectives and ideas,
Right.
the better equipped you'll be to identify and address potential risks.
It's like building a strong immune system for your digital life.
Exactly. And another crucial aspect is incident response planning.
So what happens if you do experience a security breach?
Having a plan in place can make all the difference in minimizing the damage and recovering quickly.
Right.
It's like having a fire drill for your cybersecurity.
Okay, so it's not just about preventing breaches, but also about knowing what to do if one happens.
Exactly.
What are some of the key elements of a good incident response plan?
First, you need to be able to identify that a breach has actually occurred.
Okay.
This involves monitoring your systems for unusual activity
Right.
and having processes in place to alert you if something suspicious is detected.
So it's about being vigilant and having early warning systems in place. What happens once you've identified a potential breach?
Then you need to contain the damage.
Okay.
This might involve isolating affected systems,
Right.
shutting down certain services, or changing passwords.
It's like performing emergency surgery on your digital infrastructure.
That's a vivid way to put it.
Yeah.
And once you've contained the damage,
Yeah.
you need to investigate what happened, identify the root cause, and take steps to prevent it from happening again.
It's like a postmortem for your cybersecurity. It sounds like incident response is a complex and multifaceted process. Are there any resources or tools that can help organizations develop and implement effective incident response plans?
Yes, there are many resources available, including frameworks, guidelines,
Okay.
and even specialized software that can help automate certain aspects of incident response.
That's good to know. This whole discussion has been incredibly eye-opening. I'm starting to see cybersecurity in a whole new light.
It's a fascinating and ever-evolving field, and one that affects all of us in today's digital world.
And speaking of evolution, I'm curious to hear more about what the future holds for cybersecurity.
Yeah. What are some of the emerging trends and technologies that you think will shape the landscape in the years to come?
One area that's getting a lot of attention is artificial intelligence, or AI.
Yeah. Oh,
AI can be used to analyze vast amounts of data
right.
and identify patterns that humans might miss, making it a powerful tool for threat detection and prevention.
So it's like having a super smart digital detective working around the clock to protect our systems.
Exactly. AI can also be used to automate certain security tasks,
Right.
freeing up human analysts to focus on more complex issues.
That sounds incredibly efficient.
Right?
Are there any other exciting developments on the horizon?
Quantum computing is another game changer,
Okay.
while still in its early stages.
Right.
Quantum computing has the potential to break many of the encryption algorithms we rely on today.
Oh, wow, that sounds like a major challenge.
It is, but it also presents an opportunity to develop new, more robust encryption methods
Right.
that can withstand the power of quantum computers. It's a race against time.
But it's one that cybersecurity experts are actively working on.
So it's like a constant arms race between those trying to protect information and those trying to exploit it.
Exactly. And as technology continues to evolve, the arms race will only intensify.
This has been an incredibly informative deep dive into the world of cybersecurity. I feel like I've learned so much in such a short time.
It's been my pleasure sharing these insights with you. Remember, knowledge is power when it comes to cybersecurity. The more you learn and the more proactive you are, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the digital world safely.
Well said. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back after a short break to wrap things up and share some final thoughts. We're back, and I have to say, feeling a bit overwhelmed by all this information. Cybersecurity is clearly a vast and complex landscape.
It can definitely feel that way, especially with new technologies and threats emerging all the time.
Exactly. So for the average person who isn't a tech expert, what are the key takeaways? What should they be focusing on to stay safe online?
That's a great question. I think the most important thing is awareness. You don't need to be a cybersecurity expert, but you should have a basic understanding of the threats out there and the potential consequences of a security breach.
So knowing about things like phishing scams, malware, and data breaches.
Exactly. Once you're aware of the risks, you can start taking steps to protect yourself.
Like using strong passwords, enabling MFA on your accounts, and being careful about what links you click on.
Absolutely. Those are all great starting points. It's also important to keep your software up to date. Software updates often include security patches that fix known vulnerabilities. So installing them promptly can significantly reduce your risk.
It's like giving your digital immune system a booster shot. But with all the different devices and accounts we use these days, it can be hard to keep track of everything. Are there any tools or resources that can help people manage their cybersecurity more effectively?
There are some great tools out there. Password managers, as we discussed earlier, are fantastic for generating and storing strong, unique passwords.
And they can help you keep track of software updates too, right?
Many of them do, yes. And some antivirus software programs can also help with this, making sure your devices are protected from malware and other threats.
So it's about having a layered approach to security, using multiple tools and strategies to create a strong defense.
Exactly. And remember, cybersecurity is not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process. The threat landscape is constantly evolving, so you need to stay informed and adapt your security practices accordingly.
That makes sense. It's like staying physically fit. You can't just work out once and expect to be healthy forever. You need to make it a part of your routine. So how can people stay up to date on the latest cybersecurity threats and trends?
There are many great resources available online, such as security blogs, newsletters, and podcasts. Following cybersecurity experts on social media is another way to stay informed.
I'm definitely going to be checking out Bert Blevins' YouTube channel and website. He's like a wealth of information.
He is. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're not sure about something, reach out to someone who knows more than you talk to your IT department. Consult with a cybersecurity professional, or simply do some research online. The more you learn, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself and your data.
That's great advice. Knowledge is power, especially in the world of cybersecurity. Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your expertise.
It's been my pleasure. Remember, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe out there in the digital world.
And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey into the ever-evolving world of cybersecurity. We hope you've learned something new and feel empowered to take control of your own digital security. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and stay ahead of the curve.